Welcome back to the WalaWay, and I'm joined by my esteemed colleague one more time, Mr. Mut. How you doing?
Alhamdulillah, how are you?
I'm doing good. Episode 2.
Yes, sir. Excited.
Excite me too, man. I know you have a couple things you want to talk about, and this slowly turning into, I guess, like a review show where we review some of the viral clips that exist out in the basketball world, man. So we'll go straight into it. There's this clip of Gilbert Arenas talking about how to make the NBA a better product and how to make the NBA better defensively. Have you seen the clip?
Yeah, of course.
Well, let's
Crazy.
Let's take a listen real quick and then we'll comment on it.
What changes can the league make to bring more competitive balance to both sides of the ball?
Get rid of all the Europeans. They don't go to college whatsoever. They have no athleticism. They have no speed, no jumping ability. They are a liability on defense. There's 150 Euros in the league today. Name the top 10 defenders. Just Rudy Gobert and Greek the Freak. Other than that, they're just offensive players. They're not defensive players. When they first started getting here, it was too rough for them. They softened the rules to open it up international.
Thoughts?
I saw someone watching or like also reacting to the video, and he made a good point. In the 90s, they added a flagrant foul. Flagrant foul got introduced in the 90s. That wasn't because of a European player in the 90s. That was because of Michael Jordan. That's an American player. You know? Like, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. And to his point about a lot of the players in the NBA being the best defenders are American, I think the three best defensive players in the NBA are not American. I think Wemby's the best already. Yep. I think Wemby's the best defender in the NBA already. I think Giannis is still one of the best. And Embiid. I still think Embiid's a great rim protector.
Yeah, I think.
And Gobert, obviously.
Yeah, Gobert. These things are rooted. I hate to be so blunt. I don't think he's trying to be discriminatory, but it comes off that way, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember last year when the MVP race was waging between Embiid and Jokic. All of a sudden, it started to turn into a lot of like white player hate.
Yeah.
I don't know if you picked up on that.
I didn't feel like it was a white player. I felt like it was an American player. I heard Perk, he was saying something about like, who's going to be the American player that's going to take it personally, win back the MVP? Like, that's...
But he did. But the reason Perk is sounded off is because he brought up, he said, let's go back to like 1990 and count.
Yes.
So it seemed weird because he
said something about like the points and like not being a top 10 points.
Yeah. Dirk Nowitzki, Steve Nash, and then maybe one other player. But it doesn't sound right? And I hate this because, like you mentioned, something was happening in the 90s. The NBA instituted changes based on what was happening, and the league changes, right?
Of course.
When the league said, you know what, these low-scoring games aren't yielding us good ratings, we got to spicing things up. So then, obviously, if the game transitions to a game that's going to rely on higher scoring, which means you need guys who shoot at a high clip, guys who can shoot threes more than twos because threes are worth more than twos. It's not the Europeans' fault that they're more fundamentally sound, right?
Yeah.
And they're good at shooting, and they're good at cutting, and they're good at passing and picking and screening and rolling. So off the bat, it rubs me the wrong way. You brought up some good points. Who are some of the better defenders in the league right now? Wemby, not American. Embiid, not American. Giannis, not American. Gobert, not American. I think about even when I grew up watching basketball, you had a guy, Andrei Kirilenko, Russian, very good defensively. You've had various Canadians. Jeremy Sohin right now on the Spurs. I believe he's a German national.
Yeah.
So he's a German citizen. So not American, right? I don't know, man. It really rubs me the wrong way. I think some of the players are a little salty. I think some of them have seen the Europeans come in. And again, I understand where it's coming from because even like when Jokic first came in, I was like, this guy doesn't have what it takes.
Yeah. Because
I was hating, man. I was like, he doesn't play like the old school big in the sense of bang, bang, dunk.
Yeah.
Very finesse, but he wasn't a finesse like a Dirk Nowitzki. He was like a brute finesse guy who played under the rim.
Yeah. Like he wasn't like a finesse guy like Dirk. He also wasn't a soft guy like Nurkic.
He's not soft at all. Yeah.
He's that tweener.
Yeah. No. I mean, I love Jokic is one of my favorite players now, right?
I agree.
I mean, how could you not like the guy? But some of it, I think, is just hating and realizing there's only so many times that you can just use brute force, speed. When I grew up playing basketball, man, people used to hate it. Once I started taking to the sport and got good at it, like where I grew up, there were not many Indians, right?
Mm.
So when I would play, I would get sometimes elbowed on purpose in the face, and people would try. I remember one time I went into the city where my cousins lived, and we played against these like Puerto Rican guys, and they thought they were gonna, beat us, and we beat them, and I was out of the cousins, I was the better player, and these guys followed us for like 2 or 3 blocks wanting to fight. So I think there's also this thing like when you look like you're not supposed to be good and you're good, people don't like it.
It makes you that much mad, that much more mad.
It makes them much more mad.
I talked to that about my friend. I was like, do you think it's more frustrating getting killed by a person that's built like Luka or some rocked up dude that's built like LeBron?
Oh, Luka,
like, it's way more frustrating. This little pudgy white dude is giving you 40 every night. That's frustrating, man.
He doesn't even seem quick. He doesn't even seem that fast.
He's not fast. He can't jump over a book. I'm faster than him. Like
but when he gets that ball, 40. Yeah, when he gets that ball, something happens.
Of course.
Yeah, I don't know, man. So for me, I don't like it. I don't think that's actually a good fix. If they want a better product, players have to come out better.
And also, I feel like in a backhanded way, he also dogged American players by saying, "Yep, you're also not skilled."
I agree.
Like you're gonna say Steph's not a good shooter?
Yeah.
Like what does that mean?
Yeah, I think their retort to that would be, well, okay, Steph. Okay, you got Steph. You got LeBron. You got KD. You got Devin Booker. After that, Shea's Canadian. So I don't know, man. Like I said, these conversations, they're fun to have. They're like barbershop talk. I think it's rooted in something not so wholesome. If the Europeans weren't kicking our butts, if the Europeans weren't, they didn't beat us in the Olympics in 2004, it doesn't force us to get better, right? Then, in 2008, we sent LeBron, Carmelo, Dwight, Kobe.
2004, was that Argentina?
Argentina, yeah. Yep.
Was that before? Was that Redeem Team?
No.
Or was that AI and Tim? And
yeah. Redeem Team was because of that.
Yeah.
That team was AI, Stephon Marbury,
Tim Duncan.
I believe Carlos Boozer might have been on that team.
Again, I'm pretty sure Melo and them, they were there, but they were young. They didn't play.
I think they were barely a year in, right?
Yeah, I don't think they played.
They actually, they were. I don't even know if they were a year in. They were a year in by that.
Because I watched the documentary.
Yeah, they didn't play.
And like Melo was like, why y'all asking me? I didn't even play.
Yeah. I think LeBron was on that team too.
Yeah.
Carmelo was on that team.
D Wade might have been on that team too.
Who?
D Wade.
He might have. Even Dwight might have been on that team. Yeah. I can't remember, but they didn't play much at all. There's some conflict with Larry Brown as well in terms of Larry Brown's coaching.
The documentary was
I liked it. I liked
it.
Yeah. And then 2008. I mean, so these type of things force you to get better, man. Now, if now with also Wemby ascending and Wemby getting to his heights, like Gilbert was cracking a joke with Shannon, saying that he's gonna get back on the market, find a lady, find a former. Have you seen this?
I watched the pod, but like refresh my.
He's gonna find a former WNBA player who's like 6'6".
Oh yeah.
They're gonna make themselves a Wemby, right?
Yeah.
So I think it forces you to get better, man. It forces you to wake up and say, I need to develop these skills, or I'm gonna be eliminated from the league. Because like people have been saying, up until like early 2000s, you could get away with not being able to shoot the ball as an individual, right? If I'm a lockdown defender, I get rebounds. But now, if you can't shoot, you can't play.
Like I was watching, I don't know why. I was watching the 2011 finals. Was that the Mavericks? 11 was Mavericks and the Heat.
Yeah.
I was watching Game 6. And even then, that was 12, 13 years ago. The game then was much different. Dudes were taking catch and shoot mid range. That's an obsolete. That's a wash shot in today's game.
Yeah.
That's Udonis Haslam's shot. If that's your main shot, if David West couldn't play today.
Yeah.
Is that like that's it's just a crazy evolution of the game.
Yeah, I mean I used to love those guys, man. David West, like you mentioned, UD. You
Aldridge.
Aldridge could, but
Aldridge stretch it a little more.
He stretched it. Kurt Thomas, all these old school kind of bruiser types who developed that little mid pick and pop, screen and pop, right? It's sad, man, because I love that type of basketball, right? I like Rip Hamilton curling around screens, shooting the midi.
Yep.
D Wade used to be a lot of mid range. So it's sad that the game's gone there. It's not sad. It's the evolution of the game, right? And the pendulum. I always tell people, man, the pendulum always winds up swinging back. So I think the game, again, it's going to make another drastic change, right? At some point, you might see a return to 10 or 15 years of just old school basketball and then another shift again. So I don't know.
Do you think it would be a rule change or a player that comes in and changes the game?
I think both. I think if you have
like a 4-pointer or something.
Man, 4-pointer. I know that's, people have spoken about that when you go like deep range and
Yeah.
shooting out where Dame shoots out from sometimes. I still think there's enough purists left in the game that they'll probably kind of be resistant to like a 4-point shot. You might have something like that, an all-star game, things of this nature. I don't know if that will ever exist in a game, man. But I do see a player can change the game, and then also just the culture and the shift, right? Also, if we get beaten internationally, right? Not to say that will happen, but if we do get beaten internationally, you will see a change also in the type of players that are being recruited to Team USA. So you might see a change in the way teams are playing, players are training in the off season. But I think we also live in a time where, other than Wemby, there's not many anomalies, right? Like meaning,
just different prospects.
Yeah. Like
Zion was just a different prospect than anyone's ever seen.
Oh yeah. Zion's a good example.
Zion was like we were coming out like he's not really Blake. He's also really not Charles Barkley.
Yeah.
He's kind of a mix of both.
Oh yeah.
Like there was no straight up comparison for him,
Yeah.
And even Wemby, like of course there's been tall, skinny guys that could dribble, but none of them were really successful like how Wemby is being successful right now. Manute Bol.
No.
Yeah. I think Chet's gonna be pretty good.
Yep.
But that was just the year before him.
Yep.
So you can't really compare to a second-year guy.
Yeah, I think with Wemby, the interesting thing will be you probably will have at one point, if he doesn't get hurt, he'll have a shot to be MVP and Defensive Player of the Year. I think so. Because some people are saying he already could be Defensive Player of the Year.
That's happened before, right? Shaq did it?
I don't think anybody...
Jordan might have did it.
Jordan might have done it. Let me check. NBA, has there ever been a defensive player and MVP in the same year? Jordan, Olajuwon, David Robinson, Kevin Garnett, and Giannis are the only winners to have also won. So I don't think it's not
rare.
The same season. Jordan and Olajuwon.
No, I know Giannis did it. Same season, 2020.
Yep. So Giannis, Jordan, and Olajuwon did it in the same year.
Yeah.
So I think Wemby's gonna have that shot, man, just because of how he erases shots, how he forces the offense to rethink their strategy, finish it in the lane, contesting outside shots. The fact that he blocks, rebounds, and then also can lead the fast break. So I think as he starts getting better, you'll see that he'll have the opportunity to both.
Who do you think is like a player that they could get to elevate him, but without taking away his development? Because I was thinking, I was like, Trae Young would be a cool fit.
Yeah.
But Trae Young still, I still think Trae Young is a very good player, and I think Trae Young would demand the ball a lot more than they would want him to have it while Wemby's on the floor. So I don't know if there's like a happy medium player where he's really good, but he's not superstar to take away from Wemby,
It's crazy because I was thinking, what if, just randomly popped into my head, what if Dame came here instead, right? But I think, the Trae Young, this actually was a rumor before the trade deadline that there might be a chance that the Spurs try to pick him up. And, there's some mutual interest. Now, Trae's a little undersized, so defensively he's always going to be a little bit of a liability, but that's where Wemby's strength,
evens
right?
him out, yeah.
But Trae is a straight hoop getter, right? He gets buckets. So the fact that Trae can finish on the inside, he can shoot the three at a high clip.
He's an elite passer, too.
He's a good passer. I think, I don't see it as a problem, man, because if you're smart, you're like, you know what? I'm going to learn how to play with this guy and play off of him. Because if I can shoot and score, why wouldn't I want a dominant big who's going to draw the double team, who can just kick it out to me, and I can just knock down, open shots. So I think Trae Young is a good example. I think even a Kevin Durant, who's now getting older, slowed down a little bit, he's still scoring at a high clip. Having a KD there with another player to come in and just kind of play off of a dominant player could be beneficial. Again, I don't know who's going to be available this offseason. I'm not sure who's disgruntled, like who's a player that's looking for a change. I was even thinking, like, man, if D-Book and these guys lose again, can we try to make a run at Devin Booker? I don't know what's realistic. I don't know, again, what's available.
I think Donovan Mitchell might be available.
I think that, but man, he's in the Cavs, right?
Yeah.
They're in second place, bro.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know why everyone's talking about him getting traded.
Yeah, the guys insane. And they lost, who did they trade to the Knicks? They lost someone this year.
Was it Okog? No. The Knicks?
They had somebody that they traded away.
At the deadline?
Oh, Kevin Love left them a year and a half ago.
Yeah, he bought out.
So I thought Kevin Love on that team was still good. And then I feel like they lost one more player. But
they're a solid squad.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Donovan Mitchell is a baller. I like Donovan Mitchell.
Darius Garland.
I like Garland. I like a lot of these guys. I think it's all going to come down to who's available for the Spurs to actually get. And the other thing that we can't forget is the Spurs have a chance of getting the top pick again. They have a chance of getting the top pick. If they don't get the top pick, they might get the second pick. They might get the third pick.
This year's class is very sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard next year's draft is going to be much better.
Yeah, it's going to be way better. That's Cooper Flagg's year.
Yeah.
But I'm saying this year, like, I think if the Spurs get that top 2, top 3 pick,
trade it away, and package it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that's unwise. I think if you get the right asset, it all just depends on who that person is. I would not get someone who's too old.
I'd get a guard.
I would get a guard, and I get someone who's still in his prime and has years left in his prime, because you want to ultimately pair them up, right?
Yeah.
Like if DeRozan was still younger, even though I know he's kind of been washed. He's old, and the whole long range thing. But because he can still handle, like he was a good handler, he's got a good. You need to pair him up with another scorer, a guy who can take the ball in his hands if need be, competent with the ball,
closer.
Yeah, someone who can close, someone who can score when he wants. I think it only helps his development because it takes pressure off him. Not teams were not really scouting him or planning for him, right? Because he was a rookie. I think now that he's been doing what he's been doing for the last couple of months,
getting their respect.
Yeah, and then now next year, people are going to devise entire plans around him, right?
Yeah.
So it only helps to get a player to be there with you, to help you out, to take some of the pressure off of you. Again, who that is, I don't know, right? I was thinking, would we want a Bradley Beal? But Bradley Beal's
he stays hurt.
I
just got the Dallas fan in me.
Sure.
And I just don't want what happened to us happen to y'all with Luka and Porzingis.
Yeah.
When that happened, I was like, man, that's a match made into heaven. 7-3 block shots,
I like
stretch
Porzingis.
the floor.
Yeah.
You got Luka as one of the best passes in the NBA, and just for some reason, I think both of them just thought they were bigger than what they just want to play with 2 balls instead of 1.
Yeah, no, it takes time, man. It takes the right coach. It takes the front office to say, we're not going to make any trades here, or we're not taking any sides. I think they ultimately did the right thing and said we're going to go with Luka, right?
Of course,
because it's proven to be the correct move. But obviously we got burned by the whole Kawhi Leonard situation. I covered that quite extensively on a past podcast.
Yeah.
But that definitely set us back after he got that ankle injury against Golden State. But for the Spurs, man, I don't know, man. I think they're in they have a golden opportunity here with a once in a lifetime type of player to do something amazing. But obviously they got a great front office. They got a great coach. They got a great training staff. Who on that current squad can stay there? Who do you got to move so you can get some better assets? I was having that conversation with myself the other day. Do you keep Sohan? I like Sohan. In baseball, we call him like a utility player, right?
Yeah.
He can kind of do a little bit of
everything.
Knife,
yeah.
Yeah, like he brings up the ball, but he's not a true point guard. But, he was like their backup.
He's like their Draymond.
He's like their Draymond. Yeah, he's like their Draymond. It's a great example.
I like Devin Vassell.
Vassell is
I think he's really good.
I agree. I think he's good.
Keldon Johnson. I think he's really good, but I think he could be moved for an upgrade.
Yeah, I think Keldon is going to be the X factor in the sense of what do you do with him?
Yeah.
Do you decide to continue letting him develop? Has he already reached his ceiling? Did you kind of already maximize the potential that was there? Or do you kind of use some of the trade value he has and move him? And then, then the question becomes, are you going after like a LaMelo Ball? Are you going after like a disgruntled Zion Williamson? Like who are you going after?
Man, LaMelo, that would be crazy.
Yeah, I mean,
that'd be fun to watch.
You get someone who can push the ball, man. Push the ball with young athletic dudes because they're all young now, right?
Yeah, that's showtime.
Yeah, man, you could do something beautiful together. So, I don't know. It's gonna be interesting.
How long do you think until people get impatient with the Spurs?
Maybe a year or two, because the reason it typically takes longer than that. But the reason I say that is you see they're getting like crazy amounts of love on social media. Kendrick Perkins and these guys have covered him 2 or 3 times. All these different people have covered them several times. So it's difficult based on how much coverage they're getting on media. Because if the media turns on you, right? And the media starts saying, oh, it's a failed experiment. Or like Kendrick Perkins said, the Spurs are on the clock. And then the former GM or whatever, the operations president, manager of the Warriors said like...
Oh, Bob Myers?
Bob Myers. He's like, relax. Like, they're not on the clock.
Yeah, let it take time.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think maybe a couple of years. Because the other thing that you have to worry about is they are a small market. Wemby, players don't stay there, man. Players don't stay there because it's a small city. I would love to stay in a place like that, but everybody's not us, right? Everybody's not like a fan of maybe the values or culture or whatnot. People want to party. People want to have fun. People want to be in Hollywood. People want to
it's not California.
It's not California.
As much as Texas, we love Texas, but
bro, it's not Florida.
It's not Florida, California,
it's not New York. It's not Chicago. It's not California, right? So, and it's not even Dallas, right? Like that we're in Texas, but Dallas is Dallas.
Yeah.
This is San Antonio.
I mean, San Antonio, like, I talk about it with my dad about like even football. Like, I feel like people have this like stereotype, like, oh, there's horses and cattle. Like, no, Dallas, it's an advanced city now.
Oh yeah. No. I mean, people come. Look, man. Before people started making the migration to Florida, people are still moving here.
Yeah.
But there are some people who are choosing to move to Florida now instead of Texas. But Texas, like where we are, is great, right? Northeast Texas, the Dallas area, the industries that are here, the different, Amazon, all these big IT industries, all these big like I drove by Texas Instrument, Kodak, all these places. So, no, Texas has its allure, but I don't know if it's going to be enough to keep Wemby. I don't know.
Thing is, with small markets, you have to draft really good.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's what the Spurs made their, that's how they made their living.
And a player like Wemby doesn't, like a player like that, it gives off like Tim Duncan, or like, man, he's gonna stay there forever.
I get that feeling too.
Like, as much as I want Luka to stay, there's something that deep down I'm like, if he leaves, I love Luka. I'm gonna support him wherever he goes.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be mad at him for leaving because I understand. But a player like Wemby, like, and he seems like a nice, chill, calm guy. I feel like he'll stay there forever unless something drastic happens with management.
I get the feeling that Wemby, as long as Pop is there, and as long as you keep him happy and you build around him, I think he'll stay as well. I do get that Tim Duncan type of vibe.
Yeah.
The fact that he's from France and he's close to Tony Parker.
Go ahead.
No, I think that will help. What are you gonna say?
I was saying I can feel like it's also gonna be like an AD situation where AD just wanted to see that they were trying to get better. As much as the DeMarcus Cousins trade didn't make much sense, it was a show that we're trying to make a push. Luka and Kyrie, it's not really a good fit, but it's showing Luka we're trying to win. Like we brought in this guy so y'all can do something.
Why didn't you like the DeMarcus and Anthony Davis thing?
It's just a fit. They're both bigs. I mean, you rather much. I mean, at that time, DeMarcus Cousins, in my opinion, was the best big in the NBA.
Bro, he was balling, man.
So I'm saying if they could have traded for just in fit, Paul George to the Pelicans would have been a better fit than DeMarcus Cousins.
Yeah,
because they already had Drew Holiday. You had PG, and you still got AD. I think Valanciunas is still there too.
But don't you think? So they made the playoffs that season, and isn't that where DeMarcus first hurt his hamstring?
Was that in the first? They won the first round.
Yeah, I personally think it was great. I'm a fan. Like, if you have two talented big men like that,
it's like the Timberwolves right now.
Yeah, you got to make it work. Like, you have to make it work. Remember, Anthony Davis likes floating outside, even though we want him to play inside. DeMarcus lives on the inside. DeMarcus, competent passer, good rebounder, good scorer. I think they could have made it work. I just think the injuries.
Yeah, the injuries, of course.
I think they had the injuries. So I know you brought up. You had this Jamal Crawford post that you shared with me. So why don't you bring it up?
Yeah, let me just read it.
Sure.
Let me just remember how it went.
While he's pulling it up, guys, do not forget, like and subscribe. WalaWay with my new co-host. We're going to be doing this regularly. All your basketball questions answered. Discussing all the hot topics. Go ahead.
I feel like what he said was, it kind of correlates to what we were talking about with Gil. The way European players develop is completely different, And I don't want to get into like the parent thing that Jamal talked about, but I mean, you're a coach. You coach college players or future college players, inshallah, future professional players. I mean, you see that you've got American, European, all over. Like, what do you think is like in their game? What do you think is the biggest difference?
I'll answer that. Can you give me a little bit more details? Like, what did he say? Did he just reference?
He was just talking about how like he was basically saying American players develop through games, European players develop through practices.
So there's a famous European coach. I actually shared the clip. Either Abdullah Duro, or I shared it with him or he shared it with me. But it's a famous individual who was saying the same exact thing, that in America, the focus is on the games. In Europe, the focus is on the practice.
Yeah.
So I kind of have this struggle right now when I'm coaching the young guys. Like unfortunately, we have like 12 kids on some of these young teams. Some of the kids don't come to practice regularly, but they show up to the games.
Yeah, they make sure they come to the game.
They make sure they come to the game, right? So the parents get frustrated sometimes because they don't get the playing time that the other kids do. Now, for me, it's not necessarily only about putting the most talented kids out there. Who's showing up to practice, who's putting in the work, who's learning the concepts. So you come to the games, but you don't know how we're running our offense or what we're going to do. Don't give middle, all these things. The game is not a chance for remediation, right? To like, okay, let's work on some of the things that we missed in practice. The point that I'm making is I've told some of these parents in the past, for your son at this age and at his level, it's way more important for him to be at practice than it's to be at the games. The practice is more important. It's going to help him more in his long-term development than the games. So I agree with that 100%. I think some of it is the emphasis on the game over practice. I think in the American level, it's a larger manifestation of what we see in our society. We're spoiled. We have access to everything. We're entitled. I really believe that. So you'll find kids and, they watch the NBA and they want to do what Kobe was doing. They want to do what KD is doing. You say, look, no, you're not an NBA player. You're not 6'8". You don't have that range. You still need to learn the fundamentals. But this is what I saw. And then, I've even had parents tell me, I saw my son didn't score that much during the game. Why was that? I said, look, everybody has a role.
Yeah. Last time we talked about small things.
Yeah. And
that might be someone's role.
Man, I told you last time, if you're open, take the shot.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not telling these guys don't take the shot if you're open. But ultimately, if he can't create his own shot, or if he can't drift to an open spot on the floor and catch the ball and shoot, he's probably not going to score, right? Unless he gets a putback, he catches it, goes back up with it. So I think some of it is how we raise our kids. I think some of it is just a larger manifestation of our culture. So when I worked with Coach Munir, a lot of the players were from overseas. You can be rough with these guys. You can be direct with these guys. These guys don't leave the floor crying. They don't call their parents on you. They shouldn't be beat. You don't necessarily have to cuss them out or call them idiots or stupid. No. But there's a level of directness you can have with them that sometimes I feel like you can't be with American players anymore, right?
Yeah, like when we used to practice with Munir, I'm like, dang, he's going in on him.
Oh yeah.
Like, I look, you feel bad, but no, they take it. They use it as motivation. They don't. Yeah. Like those kids are built different.
And I've seen after the season, like the kids, they appreciate it, man. They look at coach sometimes as, I'm not saying only in his case, but if you look at old school basketball, you see when the guys give their Hall of Fame speeches, inner city African American kids. If you go over the stereotypes, oh, they're unruly. Oh no, you see these guys give so much respect to these coaches. Like Steven Jackson used to talk about it with Coach Popovich, right? Even though sometimes he craps on the Spurs, he would say like, man, he's like a father figure. I'm like a black kid from the inner city. He's like a white dude who's from the military. I never thought it would mesh, but it worked. Yeah. So if you give young kids direction and guidance, they eat it up, man. Sometimes they need that little slap on the hand without a physical slap, but some type of discipline. But yeah, I think I agree with Jamal. I think the issue is too much emphasis on the game. AAU, so many AAU tournaments, game.
Kids play 12 games a weekend.
That's why they get injured.
That's crazy.
That's why these guys are getting, at a younger age, getting surgeries and injured and whatnot.
Yeah, and like to go back to like the European thing, it's like if Luka just took care of his body just a little bit, this dude could play for 25 years. That's what makes LeBron playing 20 plus years so scary, is that he's from year 1 to year 20, what is he on, 21?
21.
He's still punching on people. Yeah. He's jumping up and down, chase down blocks. That's what makes his so much more impressive, because when European players, they get older, they still have the fundamentals. Yep. Kobe and Jordan, they had to develop that mid-range, that footwork 8 years into their career. Imagine if Kobe grew up and Michael Jordan grew up overseas, where they would develop these type of moves, man, they would be unstoppable from their rookie year.
So don't forget, Kobe did grow up overseas.
Italy, right?
Italy. So but that's also, I think, why you're right, where he didn't have like a good shot until a couple of years. Yeah. But the reason he had some of that engine, that motor, is because
the European
he's playing with men when he was a kid. Yeah. And he idolized Michael. He idolized an older Michael who was reverse pivoting and up and unders and all these type of things. So yeah, I agree with that, man. And I love that you mentioned that, because I've always thought that the reason, sometimes as American players, we get away with maybe being more athletic. So we think that our athleticism is some type of superiority, right? Where the Europeans, their bodies break down. I know it sounds so bad, like we're generalizing, but like you said, jump stop, pivot, reverse pivot, perfect pass, and they're able to still have a role even at a more advanced age, right? Like Argentina's point guard, Pezzarozzi, I forgot his name, man. Peggiaroni, whatever it was. He was on the Knicks when he was like 41, 42 or something. And he was, again, not to say he got a lot of minutes, but because he still could fulfill a role of a backup point guard, he still had utility.
Yeah. And also, I feel like playing without a lot, or having a play style or having a build without athleticism also enhances your IQ. You got to find different ways to maneuver here, speed up, slow down, get here, pump, kick, you know.
Of course.
If Luka had a 40-inch vertical, he wouldn't be as good of a passer.
Yeah. I agree.
Sense? Yeah.
I mean, if you love the game, like me, as I got older, some things start going away. I was always, as a younger kid, extremely fast, extremely quick. Always. Once that goes away, you have to make a decision.
Find new ways to score.
Am I going to keep playing this game, or am I just going to bow out and leave? Okay, I still want to play. Okay, what am I going to be able to do to play? Because I can't get past my defender like I used to anymore with no contact. Now they're riding me. I'm still faster than them, but I have contact. Can I finish with my left hand?
Yeah.
Can I jump stop cleanly enough by bringing the ball up so the guy goes for it? You know, there's
Euro, Veer, all
Euro. Can I knock down an open shot from the corner, right? So for me, that's what I did. As I got a little older, the first thing I did is I became a better shooter. Because I said, man, I need to be able to knock down open shots or I'm not going to get picked, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's a great conversation, man. Great points. But sometimes I feel like the younger NBA players don't get it because they're still young, hungry, athletic, arrogant sometimes. So that it hasn't hit you yet.
I'm saying, like, when you're the young kid on AAU and you're the fastest kid, and like an older person tells you, dude, you need to develop your left hand, or you need to develop your shot. I'm like, dude, why don't I need to develop my shot? I'm averaging 30.
I just got past this guy.
20 times in a row. I could score 20 like this if I want.
Until you come against a good...
Until you get older.
Even before you get older, man. Until you go against a good team, a good defender.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like if I'm a 10-year-old but I'm playing U12s, you're going to need those. You can't just go right every time.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy. I think the AAU thing I have a problem with, even though we've done AAU before. But another thing that I'm not a fan of, and we'll have him on the podcast one day. I have a real good friend who's a famous strength and conditioning coach. So he's a big advocate. He says you don't do the same sport or the same training year round, especially at a young age. Kids need to do different things so their muscles can develop differently, comprehensively. And if they do only one thing over and over again, he said, there'll be imbalances. There'll be a tendency, or you'll be more prone to getting injured. So I think for the AAU, these kids are just always playing just basketball. Yeah. And that's why they're getting injured. So that's another reason I don't like AAU.
That's a big reason why I feel like I excelled in all different kinds of sports, because I played all different kinds of sports. I played soccer, I played football, I played baseball, I played basketball, I played... Every single sport has their thing to make you good at this sport.
I agree.
So soccer made me more conditioned for basketball. And basketball gave me more coordination for baseball. And then football made me more physical for basketball.
Yep. Same. I played football, I played baseball, I played different... And I always tell people my first sport wasn't basketball, it was football when I played with my friends. But the physicality of football, if you're a guard, it transfers great to basketball. You drive, you can tuck that ball and take your 2 steps, take your 1 step, jump stop, go off your shoulder. It's great. And that's why I think even at a younger age, like you mentioned, other sports transfer into other sports. So if kids get exposure to more sports at a younger age, they'll actually develop their skills for the sport that they wind up with because of the different things they learn from the sports. Yeah. That's what 100%. I think. Yeah. I know there was one more thing we wanted to discuss. You had some player comparisons that you wanted to do, I believe.
Oh. I don't know which player would be fun to go with.
So tell me, what's the exercise we're doing?
We're just do would you rather. Okay. So I'm going to just give that one player, and then we'll just keep like graduating up and up and up.
Do they have to be from the same era?
That's what do you think?
No, it doesn't matter.
I think let's go all time.
Okay, so let's start with Kyrie and AI. And the reason I say AI is because he was on the podcast with Shaq and them recently.
You go AI?
Yeah, and they were talking about handles and all that. So
okay, let's go AI or Gilbert Arenas?
Okay. AI.
AI.
Yeah.
AI? Or would you consider AI a point or a 2?
A 2.
Two?
Undersized 2.
Okay, let me go. Because I don't want to compare him to Steve Nash. Cause
Okay, so you want to compare position to position, or
Yeah.
style of play to style of play?
At least position by position.
Okay. AI or D Wade?
D Wade.
Okay. D Wade or Manu Ginobili?
D Wade.
D Wade or Ray Allen?
D Wade.
D Wade or Reggie Miller?
D Wade. I'm a big D Wade guy.
D Wade or Gilbert Arenas?
D Wade.
D Wade or Tracy McGrady?
D Wade. Let me give you one.
Sure.
D Wade or Harden?
D Wade. Yeah, for sure. D Wade plays defense. Yeah. D-Wade
I agree.
Yeah, D Wade has multiple championships, so
I feel like D Wade's too easy because he's kind of like, obviously he's not better than Kobe.
Right.
But he's obviously better than
most.
Than Harden.
Yeah, better than most shooting guards.
I feel like I want to go to like someone else. Like a deep position. Like Bird.
Yeah, we got a whole bunch of small forwards.
Bird or Clyde?
Clyde Drexler? I would say Bird.
Bird?
Yeah.
Bird or PG?
Bird. Look, there's no question PG is faster than him. PG's got more explosion than him. But at the end of the day, you play the game to win. Right? You play the game to win championships and to come out the game with something. I know people don't like these arguments, man, but at the end of the day, Bird got it in, man.
But the thing is, like, I have this talk all the time is that, like, when I have, like, my top 10 players all the time, obviously I'm going to put Bird in there, but who's just a better basketball player? If Paul George and if Paul George would played in the 80s, Paul George would be Larry. Like, if you dropped him in the 80s, he would be a wizard. And I feel like Larry Bird couldn't play today. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think I don't know, man. I think if so Larry was a guy who was impacted by a lot of injuries, spinal injuries, and all these things. These guys didn't have the
medicine.
Not only the medicine, the money, the travel, right? First class and private jets, the medicine, the IV supplementation, the cryo. So these guys, when you see a lot of their footage as they get older, man, they're playing on bum everything, bum hips and bum cervical disc and bum lumbar disc, right? So I think if you put Larry Bird in this generation young, I think he's a killer, man. Why? Because fundamentally, like we spoke about earlier, fundamentally sound, right? So is he your number one option on the team? Probably not. But as a 2 or 3, the second or third option, is he a guy who's like catching and raining threes and pump faking, taking one step and drilling it down? And he could do up and unders. He could finish with both hands. He could finish off with both feet. I used to believe that the modern guys were so much better than them. And then I forgot who it was. Someone brought up a point, and if you actually watch the footage, like there's footage you can see him going against Michael or seeing going against Clyde or going against Magic and going against guys that even people today respect as okay. These guys were athletes. These guys were fast and quick and strong. So I don't know, man. It's difficult. But if you're asking me who would win 1-on-1 or who would I rather be, I would rather be Larry because at the end of the day.
That's because of his legacy.
Yeah, look, I like
MVPs.
PG's gonna be forgotten at some point, bro. You have to accept that. Of
course.
I like PG. Most players are forgotten. You give it. Look at what happened to these guys like who got injured but were good players like Brandon Roy. Nobody remembers Brandon Roy. What about Tyreek Evans? There's all these random guys that we can bring up and say they had like 2-3 good seasons and they probably would have had more, but ultimately just didn't work out, right? So I don't know.
But I was having this talk with I forget who it was, but I was basically saying what I told you. I was like, man, if you drop Larry Bird in today, he couldn't even start on a lot of NBA teams. But then I was like, play devil's advocate. If Larry Bird grew up, if he was born on 1990, and he got to come up in today's medicine, today's training, today's
he'd be a killer.
System, he would be maybe even better than Luka is.
Isn't his grandson like a top prospect or something? Or am I wrong about this?
Is that Larry or was that Peja?
No. I love Peja, by the way.
I think Peja's son's
Peja's one of my favorite small forwards, man.
Yeah, he's at Stanford, his son.
It's not Peja, though. I think it's Larry.
Really?
Yeah.
Is he at Indiana, too?
We have to check. Because I remember I saw something about this like a month ago online. Yeah, but like Peja, for me, if you look at just an individual season, Peja was awesome, man. Peja came up as a, I forgot what year. It's between 03 and 07, 03 and 06. He came as a second or third in the MVP race.
When did he come in the league?
Probably like 99, 2000.
Dang.
Yeah.
But he had a short career, no?
He had also very bad back, man.
Because I know he was on that Mavericks team,
Yeah,
but he didn't play.
He played a little
He
bit
was
in
at
the
the end
playoffs.
of his career.
Yeah, he was at the end of his career. He had a lot of back issues. He also had a lot of, I think he had back surgery on his discs. Peja was a beast, man, for some time there. Like, again, a guy who could just catch and stroke it, catch at the 3-point line, drive in, finish at the rim, come off of screens, come off of pin downs and all these things. So
you think he could play today?
Oh, bro, he would be a killer today. Because remember, at that time, you still had rugged defenders. You still had the Ron Artests, the Bruce Bowens, the Jermaine O'Neals, the Kevin Garnetts, the Tim Duncans. You had guys who would eat your stuff up, guys who would be physical with you on the perimeter. Who's doing that to you today? And remember, Peja's not 6'6". Peja was 6'10".
6'8", or 6'9".
I think 6'9", 6'10", bro. Peja was a big dude. So, and he came up second or third in MVP voting one of those years, right? So, yeah, for me, we'll do maybe an entire episode on the Kings one day, but I definitely think the Kings got robbed that one year. I think against the Lakers.
Ah.
Yeah, that's why the people always make fun of. They make fun of that situation.
Is that with Divock?
Yeah, Divock, Weber, Stojakovic, Doug Christie, Mike Bibby, Bobby Jackson. Hito Turkoglu was on the earlier teams. Crash, I don't know if you remember Crash. Gerald Wallace. Gerald Wallace was on a couple of those earlier teams. Fun teams and good teams to watch, man. The Kings used to play exciting basketball, man. Exciting basketball. It used to be. I remember those days, man. It was, if you wanted to have like a good time, Spurs and Mavericks and Kings. Like Mavericks
Mavericks going to shoot a million shots.
Bro, you had Nash. You had Michael Finley.
Don Nelson was coaching that team.
Exactly. You had and Dirk. You had like offensive powerhouses against not much defense, right? But you know, Doug Christie was a competent defender. But it was fun times, man. Those, for me, the early 2000s was awesome basketball.
You think that's the most competitive era?
I think so, because you had a mix of offense and defense. You didn't have the style of the 90s where people criticized where it was too slow, too one-dimensional. It was starting to change. You started having multiple guys on teams that could do damage, right? You had Kobe and Shaq, and then they had a great supporting staff. Robert Horry and Horace Grant and Derek Fisher and Rick Fox and, you know, Glenn Rice in the first couple of years. And, you know, you had the Mavericks, you had the Kings, you had the Spurs, you had Minnesota Timberwolves, you had Spreewell and Sam Cassell and Kevin Garnett. And then the East was weak. The East was, for that period, the East was weak. So you did have Vince Carter in the East. You did have Jason Kidd in the East. You did have Tracy McGrady in the East. But you didn't really have any super teams. The best team in the East in that era was the Pacers. And then they fizzled out after the Malice in the Palace. Otherwise, I do think that year it would have been the Pacers and the Spurs in the championship.
What about the Raptors?
No.
They weren't that good?
They didn't have the depth.
That wasn't with Vince in them?
They did have Vince, but they didn't have the depth that the Pacers had or even the Nets had. You know, with the Nets, you had Alonzo Mourning, Kenyon Martin, Jason Kidd, and Richard Jefferson. And at one point, Alonzo went to the Heat, and then they added Vince Carter to that team, right? And then Kenyon left. So the Nets were a good team. The Pacers were a good team. Then obviously Detroit became a good team. The Bulls were like a bottom of the bracket in the playoff contenders team where you had Ben Gordon and all these guys.
That wasn't D-Rose. That was before D-Rose.
That's way before D-Rose. Yeah. D-Rose is, you're talking about like the later part of that 2000, 2009, 10. Yeah, man, it was that for me that was fun basketball, man. Yeah.
What do you think like the identity was back then? Now it's like shooting.
Yeah. That one
90s was like physicality.
I would say it was an era of great twos and great centers and power forwards. So a big and a combo guard.
Big and a combo.
Yeah, so you had Tim Duncan, and then you had Tony and Manu with him. Mavericks, you had Steve and Dirk. You had the Kings had Weber and Mike Bibby. The Lakers had Shaq and Kobe. Utah still had, even though they were old, you had Karl Malone and Stockton.
Did the Magic have Penny and Shaq?
No. That was until 97, 98, maybe even before 98. And
So was that between Dwight and Shaq?
That
or
was
is Dwight there?
No, Dwight comes in about 3 or 4 years later.
Okay.
Yeah, Dwight comes in about 3 or 4 years later, if my memory serves me correctly. He came in as a high school grad.
Yeah.
He came in at like 18 years old.
KG was there, right?
KG was in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Yeah, KG comes in, I think, in the same year that Tim Duncan comes in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, man, you had good teams. You had good basketball, man. I love that era. You had AI, right? You had AI and DK Mutombo, and that's still one of the most impressive finals, man, because he didn't really have much help.
That finals run reminds me of like LeBron's 2018.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was rocking out by himself.
Oh yeah. That's why Allen Iverson goes down as one of the greatest, because he's undersized, and what he was able to do on his own, bro, is crazy.
Let me ask you a question about AI.
Yeah.
You think AI gets a lot of love because of his cultural impact?
For sure, yeah. I mean, ultimately, I think I know where you're going with this. He never won, right? And there also seemed to be some level of stubbornness there, where he didn't change his game up, or he didn't adjust a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. Again, I'm just being honest, right? I don't know how seriously he took weight training and these other things.
Yeah, it's the famous practice interview.
But that's a misunderstood interview. So what happened there was his friend just got murdered before that.
Oh.
And he came out of a funeral, and they took that just like little snippet of the interview, right? So that's misunderstood. But I've seen behind the scenes footage. I remember when he went to Denver, and they had him working out, and I was like, he looked like he didn't know what he was doing. I'm like, have you done this before, man? Like, shouldn't you have been doing this for a while? So same thing with T-Mac. I don't know, T-Mac, I don't know how much he worked out in the beginning, but T-Mac also had like chronic back issues.
I think I'd compare AI to Carmelo.
Okay.
How later in his career he didn't want to adjust. He still wanted to be Melo. So when Melo went to OKC, he still thought he was Knicks Melo.
Right.
But he couldn't. But he got old. He didn't either know or he didn't want to fall in line. He still wanted to be that dude. I felt like.
Yeah.
And that's really what hindered the team. I'm saying the Clippers wouldn't be as good as they are right now if Russ didn't take the fall and be real with himself and be like, I'm Russell Westbrook. I'm a future Hall of Famer, but let me come off the bench.
You got to, man. You got at some point you gotta check your ego if you really want to win, and if you never won a championship, you can ride it until the wheels fall off, and say I did it my way. But for me, it's like you got to win a championship, man. You play this game, you grow up loving this game because you see the finals, you see guys like Michael crying, showing emotion, putting their hands in the air.
Yeah, at least won one.
Yeah, you got to win one, right? But the thing is that they say he was blackballed from the league after Daryl Morey kind of got rid of him from Houston. I do find it difficult, like that no NBA team could sign him and use him as a 12th guy, 8th guy, 9th guy. Maybe you have a point. Maybe it was really him not wanting to adjust and change, and that's kind of what scared teams away. I don't know. Ultimately, Carmelo was a prolific scorer, man. He could really score. And I remember even a young Carmelo, I remember his first year in the league, maybe second, but it could have been his first. Man, he was really battling with Kobe. I remember he put Kobe in the post.
Yeah, I've seen those videos.
Yeah. He was a bruiser, man. He was a bruising small forward. And like they say, he was a 3-point scorer. Like he could score from anywhere on the floor. He could score on a post-up. He could score on a cut. He could score on a pull-up. I mean, he was so good at scoring.
So versatile as a scorer.
Extremely versatile as a...
And he's built like a linebacker. So he's going to truck you, then he'll fade away type of deal.
Like you talked about earlier, who is it frustrating to play against? I'm sure super frustrating to guard someone like him. Super frustrating.
Because you're iced up.
What are you doing?
Sore after the game.
What do you do about it,
You can't. You just got to suck it up and take the beating.
Yeah, so... Cool, man. I think another solid episode. And go ahead. Any last words?
No.
Yeah. I think we'll rock it out again next week.
Alhamdulillah. Inshallah.